Buongiorno a tutti, and welcome back to Uncork's Twitch channel with the Uncoder, where the Uncoder is calling in from Piedmont, Italy, thanks to working in a company as great as Uncork, being fortunate enough to work from all around the world. So happy to be joining here, and hope you get a little bit of the beautiful background. Today, you've heard the phrase, it takes a community or it takes a village, right, to raise a child. Well, how about raising great software, building great software, and proliferating all the wonderful things that come with Uncork and Codeless? It is certainly true today or here. So we're going to talk about the community today. And with that, I have a community of people, obviously, that have come on to help us do just that. So I'd love to just introduce the great crowd we have today. Starting with Danny Pancratz, who heads up our community. Why don't y'all say hello?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Nick. Appreciate the invite and being here. Hello, everyone watching. I'm Uncork's Director of Community. I joined not quite a year ago. I have a background working in technology community. So I spent over 10 years working with an SAP user group and helped start a Google Cloud independent customer community in a joint venture with Google Cloud. And that was right before I came here. And then, as I mentioned, I've been at Uncork for the last year. And my fun fact is my background's actually in theater and acting. And I've performed Shakespeare's plays more than 100 times without rehearsal. And if you want to learn more about that, my friends and I started a company in Chicago called the Unrehearsed Shakespeare Company. Give it a Google if you want to learn how somebody might do that or see some funny photos of me performing Shakespeare. But yeah, and then excited to have some colleagues and members of our community here with us.
Okay, well, actually, so I think that's amazing. I don't even know how it's possible that you perform. So I definitely want to hear more about, about how you managed to perform Shakespeare unrehearsed. Have you ever done? I also heard there's a place in New York that does drunk Shakespeare. Have you ever been involved or heard of that? Not to say you have to admit that on national television.
I've never been involved. Doing Shakespeare without rehearsal. We would perform in bars, upstairs, back rooms, things like that. So I've performed alongside some people who maybe had one or two too many,
Sure.
and also weren't rehearsing. So that was an adventure that prepared me for things like Twitch live streams with people all over the world, I guess.
There you go. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Danny. And now let's kick it over to our three SMEs who've joined us, two of which you might recall from previous Twitch episodes. But yeah, why don't I just kick it to Nick first, and then we'll go around the horn. Hopefully, all of us see our faces in the same order that I do, which would make it easy to do it clockwise for me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Nadolski. I'm a technical success manager here at Uncork. So I work with a large variety of our clients across a variety of industries. And I partner with customer success and Danny's team to help people get the most out of Uncork. And excited to kind of show you some new tips and tricks and hope to meet some of you in the future as you experience Uncork even further. Yes, off to Eric.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks the Uncoder for having me back again. For those who don't remember me from last time, I'm Eric. I'm a staff solutions engineer at Uncork, and I've spent a good amount of time participating with the community. Not as prolific as Andy, but I try and help out when I can. And yeah, so super happy to share some Q&A today on some frequently asked questions. Andy? Oh, and also, I'm not working from Italy. I am working from Yavin 4, though. So there you go. Andy.
Very cool, Eric. Thanks. I'm Andy Rahamin, a solutions architect on the marketplace team, and also one of the newer community SMEs about a week ago. So pretty active on the community, always looking to help out where I can. It's very nice to meet everybody.
Cool. Thank you. So I think we're gonna start this off by just with Danny really just giving us a lot of information about the community, and then tee up some awesome questions that these SMEs are going to answer for us. Some of the top questions that we've been getting from our audience. But before that, I mean, I kind of just said what those folks are going to do later. But Danny, tell me a little more. Like, why did you want to bring a group like this together for this kind of a Twitch?
Yeah, it would be not right for the session about community to just be me, because community is about people. So we have some members of our community who have participated. But this collection I thought was also a great representation of the people who are in our community from the Uncork side, who are helping our community be successful. So you have Nick, who's with me on the customer success team, who's working with customers and partners on projects all the time. Eric, who's helping build things, and who you saw on this live stream a couple of weeks ago talking about things like enterprise view. And you have Andy, who works with the marketplace team, who's building things that speed up creator builds, snippets, templates, and the marketplace in general. Also another session to check out from a few weeks back if you aren't familiar with our marketplace. So as part of our community, you have all of these different parts of our teams, and that's just an example. You also have a lot of people from our support team who are active, solutions architects and client partners, and different engineers who are all active on our community. But we also have so many of our customers and partners, anyone who's a creator who's in our community. And that's the great thing about community, and some of the things we'll talk about is it's a way to extend and amplify the expertise of a collective group of people, right? So to take Andy, Eric, Nick, and so many other people, hundreds, thousands of people's expertise, and bring them together through connections so that everyone else in the community can benefit from it. Finally, the other practical reason why I brought so many people with us is we're going to kind of demo, or we're going to do something we do on our community each month. Our community success hour is going to be the second half of today's session. And that's a regular event we do where we do this exact thing, bring a collection of experts together, talk through some of the things that are trending on our community, and answer those questions with demos, knowing that people learn differently, or that an answer that might have been written in text is better when you have an expert kind of showing you how, and you get that talk track and the opportunity to ask questions as well. So yeah, that's why there's a group of us here today, Nick.
All right, awesome. And again, so happy to have everyone here for that. So let's just actually even start. Point one, just to level set everything beyond this, what is the community? Let's just start there. Let me hear from your words, Danny. What is our community, and enlighten folks, please.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So community is, one of those fuzzier words, and it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, right? So you already heard from me that, I really believe community is about people. When we focus on the what of the Uncork community, we're really talking about anyone who is, building on Uncork. So you've heard that includes our staff, but especially our customers and our partners as well. So if you're an Uncork creator, you're welcome to be a part of our community, and we hope you'll get involved because we think the community is here to help you be successful. When we focus a little bit more on the what, we're really kind of talking about two different things, or two different parts of how we connect as a community. And that's a place or a resource, our community hub, as we call it. And then we have things like programs that might be events or user groups, our SME program. You heard that Andy's our newest SME. So I like to summarize what our Uncork community is it's a way to connect our creators to the people and resources they need to be successful. So we have a place, our community hub, to do that, but then we have events, things like these, to come together live and to interact, creators and experts alike, and to help each other out, and also to develop relationships over time, to expand your network full of creators. I just saw on LinkedIn about an hour ago, some of our creators are hiring Uncork developers or creators and looking for talent. So it's a good way to expand your network and to lead to connection that might be your next job as well. I think, Nick, the best place to start would be talking about our community hub, that community place. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think it's awesome. I just want to say, you talked about customers, partners, our own staff as part of it. When I joined Uncork almost 4 years ago now, it was really just Uncork, staff, right? And now to see how much this has grown with the number of customers we have building, the number of partners that are building, and your ability to now bring them all together. And you're going to tell us a lot more about how they are brought together. I just have to say, with what I've seen over the last few years, it's incredible how big this group of people, the number of creators out there, has grown. And I don't know, it's just super exciting to see. So, but yes, all that said, I'd love, if you want to add anything to that, great. But then, let's dive into the community hub when you're ready.
Yeah, well, just to build on what you said, it's really great. I was doing my month-end numbers a couple of weeks ago, and the most active group on our community hub are customers, and right behind them is partners. Staff is the least active or the smallest body of people. You have staff participating day in, day out, answering questions, adding their expertise, helping people be successful. But it's really cool to see how much expertise there is and the growing expertise. We have so many people earning associate and professional configurator certification through our academy lately, seeing all these badges and things that we'll talk about in a moment popping up on the community, and a lot of people really giving back and getting better and creating better applications because so many different types of people are helping each other out. So that's good transition into kind of, so we talked about the what of community. So what's the why of community? Why did I join Uncork? Why does Uncork have a community, right? And you're probably familiar with similar communities from other technologies that you might be using, because really communities become a best practice for companies like Uncork and in this industry to get all that expertise together. This concept of working out loud is really permeating into a lot of different parts of our life, right? We have all these platforms for connecting us socially, but then at work, we might be using Slack or Teams or other collaboration tools, and moving from one-on-one conversations to really keeping teams and groups of people up to date, working out loud in Slack so that people have information and connect to the resources and the things that they need. So that concept is really kind of taking that and having a community for building a great knowledge base that everyone can benefit from is really kind of the why. The other aspect is we have creators from all over the world that are our customers and partners, even our staff, right? So Nick's in Italy right now, but we have, colleagues all over the world, but so many customers and partners all over the world as well. So having a online community is a good asynchronous way to collaborate, even when we might be in different time zones or working at other times. But most importantly, the reason we have a community is our customers asked for it. And specifically, our community hub, which we launched about 9 or 10 months ago at the end of last summer, our customers specifically gave us this feedback and asked for it. So as Nick mentioned, when he started, it was mostly Uncork, building things on our platform for our customers. And we started collaborating with partners and things like that. And so community kind of started out of an internal need for knowledge sharing, knowledge base, connecting people to each other for expertise and to help out. And then we kind of evolved that. We launched a discussion forum on a different platform, or a Q&A forum that was really great for helping us solve Q&A. But then what customers told us at the end of that year, just a couple months into that, was, hey, Uncork, you have all these great resources. This Q&A forum is great. The webinars you're doing are nice. Academy, documentation, all of these things are great, but I have like 10 to 15 links bookmarked. And it'd be really great if I could find them all in one place. And, a lot of these things are related: the Q&A, the webinars, the resources. Can you bring that together? Can you make it easier? So maybe I bookmark one thing, I go to one place. So we listened to our customers, we listened to that feedback. The team got to work. I joined the team around the same time. And last August, we launched our community hub, which, as I mentioned, is our place, our kind of online home for our community and all of our programs, to bring all of those things together. So ultimately, what we did is we brought more than 10 disparate links together into one kind of home base, a launch pad for creators to find all the resources and connect to the people that they need to be successful.
Hey, Danny, I just want to hop in and say that it's been great to see the growth on that community hub. As someone who uses some of these resources and participates, the growth that I've seen in non-Uncork staff answering, and like not just asking questions but also answering, has been great. Since as a software engineer, some of the software engineer past, that's something that you definitely miss when you join a like a platform like Uncork, and I don't miss it anymore because it's all there, right? There's that community of folks thinking not thinking the same thing. That's not groupthink, but talking about the same sort of topics, solving the same kinds of problems, right? It's been great. So I just want to chime in there from a different perspective. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
It's
thanks,
great.
Eric. And we use this. It's a good point, though. We use it ourselves, right? Different roles have different needs and focuses, and so you have Uncork staff learning from our partners and our customers. And as you build and figure things out, there are going to be things that our customers and partners become, better experts on than us, or for us to kind of like figure out, oh, hey, there's a cool way to do it, and we can use it when we're working directly with customers as well and building things. So yeah, it's really a great resource for staff, and it's cool to see, that collective community come together to help each other out. I think this is a good time to
actually just to add to that too, Danny. Like, what you said, we have our creators who happen to work for Uncork learning from those other people, as well as, it's not just the creators that get to learn, right? But then our platform team gets to learn through the community, when they're asking questions, what are the questions people are asking when using the platform. So, the knowledge sharing amongst customers, amongst staff, and also the great amount of feedback that we get, like Eric was saying, both, and you were saying, the creators who are, learning from the answers and getting answers from other folks, as well as, all the other teams of the company that also benefit, I think, from that information. It goes, I would say it goes much further than just the folks building it on Uncork. We're all learning so much, I'd say, out of this community. But all that said, right, we can continue going here. And you mentioned that people used to have 10 bookmarks open, right? And you've been able to consolidate 10 bookmarks into more or less a single platform. So why don't you maybe walk us through and tell us what are those 10 bookmarks plus all the other ones that they may not have even known that they should have had open that now are features of the community.
Yeah, I mean, after all, it's the Uncoder, it's the Twitch live stream, so it's the time to get into a demo to really show these things, and a lot of this is easier to show you than to tell. So my screen's up now. You're seeing our community hub. So instead of 10 bookmarks, you can just bookmark community.uncork.com. That's going to bring you here. And so again, it's connections to the resources and the people that you need to be successful in this launchpad idea. So here on our homepage, when we're talking about the community hub and what lives on this platform, it's really these four main forums for interacting. So we have our Q&A. That's where you heard our community started, knowledge sharing. But the other thing is, as you get people developing expertise, sharing things, it moves out of a binary, I have a question, what's the answer to it? And we have creators who want to share lessons learned, best practice, that talk about their use case, right? When we launch a new feature like our new grid system or enterprise view, we can have a conversation. Why and how would you use that, right? So that you can start thinking about your next project and plug that in. And then as Nick was just mentioning, not only do we learn from the conversations that are happening on the community, but our product and platform team, also gets feedback from our creators through an ideas and feedback forum. So we have those main areas here. The below that, we feature some events like this live stream, our success hour, relevant updates for creators. And then you're going to see some familiar things like the feed of the latest posts. And so you can see a couple things. I'm logged out right now, so you're not quite seeing everything. But another great thing is community's about people, right? So we get a chance to recognize and celebrate the contributions of other people. So we have a leaderboard for these things called reputation points. Everything you do in our community, from answering a question to sharing a lessons learned to presenting on one of our events, we give you points for, as well as badges that recognize things like certifications, or when you become an SME like Andy, or when you speak on our events and other things like that. A couple different ways to showcase your expertise and your contributions to the community. And that's really valuable for when you get a question answered from someone. You can see, oh, they're certified at this level already, or they're an SME. It's helpful context for you to kind of know and to trust that answer. But otherwise, really to focus on consolidating those 10 links, I'm going to log in quickly. We're in the process of opening things up. And so you log in with your access to any Uncork environment that you have creator credentials for. So I'm using the training environment, it logs me in here. And now I'm going to see everything. But there are a few features that you can see just going to the URL community.uncork.com. This navigation to help you find things. Elements of our search, our updates and events are public. But let's first focus on the knowledge base, right? That collective sharing of expertise. So under the knowledge base, we have those 4 forums that I told you about, as well as access to our documentation and training. And that's a number of different resources. Our academy, where you can take individual courses, or you can go on a learning path towards certification. which is really great and recommended. You have our platform documentation and our documentation hub as a whole with so many great resources there. Our API documentation and release notes is a question that we get frequently. Hey, where's the information on the latest release? Well, here's a quick and easy link to get you there. And as well as event recordings, right? So we're doing these success hours with the demos like you'll see in a few moments here. We're doing long form creator live tutorials. We did a spotlight series. We did 8 parts on the UDLC toolkit. And then we have these live streams that we're doing on Twitch regularly or LinkedIn lives. And we're sharing those recordings as well to kind of make one place where you can access presentations as well as all of the other content. So the knowledge base is really content-based resources. Under feedback, there's a couple different things. There's the ideas that we can that we mentioned, as well as if you have a bug to report or you need to open a support ticket, an easy way to get you there, as well as opportunities to get more involved in user research, be a part of early access programs and surveys to help inform and shape the future direction of what we do. A quick and easy way to get to the marketplace. Again, go back and check out Andy's live stream from a few weeks ago to do a deep dive on that. It's one of the best resources we have for quickly building awesome applications on Uncork. Events that we do, our status page. And then the other thing I want to double click into here is we have a blog of the latest updates. And this is a great way to keep people informed on what's new and most relevant. So maybe you're already certified or you don't have a question on the community. Well, the updates blog, you can subscribe to email notifications if you want. We publish about 1 to 2 things a week on average, but you can see all these different topics that we're keeping you updated on. So new developments from our academy, things from our community, new features on the community hub, new ways to earn points, celebrating our top contributors. Our documentation team is really great. So release notes are really great for a platform like Uncork, right? But release notes are also helpful for documentation. So we do kind of a spin on documentation release notes. So when we publish something new documentation, we let you know. So if there's a new configuration guide or a how-to, or there's new functionality with documentation, or we update a best practice or the best way to do something, that allows you to stay on the kind of cutting edge of how to create an Uncork, as well as updates relevant to our marketplace and the Uncork platform. So as you can see, the most recent one from last week is we published some awesome new accelerators on our marketplace. And so we let you know right away when those are available, so you can check them out, as well as news like if I filter by the Uncork platform here, our spring release, so you can check out that webinar and the announcements about that and all the documentation. So that's really the core of it. There's a lot of different things. It's, like I said, 10 links consolidated into one place. But that's the central navigation of how you can get to all of those things.
Woo! That is huge. There is a lot of stuff in there. So much amazing content, I'm sure. And admittedly, I need to dig through this more. I am not even a SME on this. And so basically, if the Uncoder ever responds to one of your questions, don't listen to a word that I'm saying, because I'm not qualified to do so. But I'm definitely, now I feel like I've got to get myself a badge and some more cred. So, one of the things I mentioned as before we started that was like how much so many people benefit from the information that comes in through the community, whether it's the Q&A form and all that. But there was that ideas. You talked about the ideas section. So, again, the fact that so many people can get value out of this, you want to tell us a little bit more about some of the ideas that people can submit through the community?
Yeah, I just clicked into ideas here. So, it started on, we launched this shortly after we launched the Community Hub as part of Uncork Create last fall. And so on the ideas page, you can click in here, you can submit an idea, you can tell us a little bit, summarize the idea, give some more information. What's your use case? How would that benefit from you? What's the impact for you? And all of that goes to our product team to consider and kind of, put in the list of things. But in addition to just your voice, the great thing about ideas is it allows other people to come in. So here's just an idea from yesterday that Chip added, where 3 people have already said, yeah, I agree with that, right? So as our team plans the roadmap, that's valuable context and information. But people can also click in and say, yes, in addition to what Chip said, here's what I'm thinking around this, as well as the product team to come hop on the community and ask clarifying questions or things like that. But in addition to ideas for the Uncork platform, something we just recently added about a month ago that I'm excited about is we're open to your feedback across so many different channels. So if you have an idea for the community, what's a resource on the community hub you'd like to see? What's a webinar you'd like to see, or something on one of our future live streams? Come in here and share it, right? It's a good way for me and the team to hear. Others can upvote it. We can have a conversation about it. But our other teams are open to that as well. So if you have ideas or requests for things to be developed for our academy or documentation, share those here. It goes to those teams. As well as if you have an idea for something in the marketplace, a snippet or a template or an integration, something that's going to accelerate the speed you can build on. I know that they're looking at popular questions and tags, but you can just come in here and say, hey, could you give me something that accelerates this? And that's something we could look into and consider. So it's really an opportunity for you to tell us, what do you need to be successful across these different vehicles, and to share your idea, and for the collective wisdom of the crowd to help us prioritize that a little bit.
All right, cool. Now, all right, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and you're an unrehearsed guy, so you should be okay with this. But no problem if you don't have the answer. I'm really curious. Like, I love the concept of submitting feedback, especially the upvoting. Do you have any examples of platform features that have come as a result of this?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. One of the things that we're talking about is how can we come back and kind of close the loop and celebrate, when, Chip's idea gets implemented or something like that. I know that there were some very early things that, like, some of the first ideas submitted when we launched this were actually like on our roadmap for that quarter. So very quickly we developed some things. I think there's some things coming around styling and that we saw a lot of early ideas on that are close to being released, if not recently released. So I don't have a really great answer for you on that, Nick. But one of the things that you can do, and like I said, we're going to look into doing this a little bit more quickly, and then we'll add a filter for this. But I think if I scroll through, I might see some all the way down to the bottom, some things that were like implemented, right? So got some feedback about the data workflow info box being too small. That was something we were hearing from a number of places, including our own internal creators, and there was an improvement made on that. So that's at least one. That's kind of a sneak peek into the preview of what we'll look to in the future, so that when we, whenever Chip's idea gets added to the roadmap and eventually delivered, we can follow up and say, hey, Chip, thanks for that. We just launched that. Here's the documentation, etc.
Cool. Super exciting stuff. Awesome. So we've covered a lot, but I'm sure there's a few other things, unique things maybe that you might want to touch on too. So let's just keep going. I mean, I don't know how to ask this, but I'd love for you to just preempt my question with a wonderful answer.
Sure. Well, I think the two things that are less obvious, if those people who are poking around on the community hub now or watching this later, is you can see a lot of things. Most of it's pretty obvious, but kind of two hidden features that are really exciting is you can actually leverage the community while you're building an Uncork. So I hopped over to the training environment here. Hopefully people are familiar with this resource center pop-up widget down here in the bottom corner. You can see the community hub is one of the options there. Sometimes you got to click it twice. It's something I'm looking into fixing. But when I open it a second time, it pops out the ability to search the community. So if you have a question about something as you're building it on Uncork, you can see if that question exists or if there's content related to that in the community, or it's a helpful way to just start asking your question from there. That'll pop you into the community. And so you can read questions and read the answer if the answer's there too. There are some pages, some parts of the platform where we've kind of like curated some specific content so that like if you're in a specific area, it kind of shows you the top 10 or so most relevant questions. So that's a really nice tool. And then the other thing and the feature I love the most is our search, because it's actually a federated search across all of these resources we've been talking about. So if you go to most of these resources, they they all have their own search, right? You can search on Academy and Marketplace and then documentation. But really, we wanted to bring 10 plus links and resources together into one main place. And the great thing about our community hub is it actually has federated search across those different data sources or different kind of platforms, right? The marketplace is built on Uncork, and documentation is on a different CMS, and Academy is a learning management system. So bringing all of those things together in one place. So when you search on the community hub, when you're logged in, you're searching across every post in the community, across our Academy courses and the lessons within them, and our documentation, as well as all of the listings in the marketplace. So what might be a good use case for that, right? Well, maybe you're looking for how to do something and you don't really care about what form that answer comes in, what type of content, or you don't know what you're looking for. You don't know that you're looking for documentation or a course. So an example of that is maybe I want to do something around a loop. So if I search loop here, you can see the first 5 most relevant questions from the community that have all been answered. So maybe one of these helps you out. Or you can see we have specific training. These are courses from start to finish in Academy that will teach you how to do some of these things, right? As you can see that loops are part of the expert workflow course learning path, it looks like. But down here, I can see, oh, actually what I'm looking to do maybe is a batch loop, and there's a marketplace listing for that, as well as some documentation around some things that's just gonna open that up when I click on that, and I'll be able to check it out on the marketplace. If this is what solves my question, I can install it and I can get to work, right? So when you're not quite sure what type of answer you're looking for, or you want to search across everything we have to offer, the Community Hub is a great place for that. So that's kind of my favorite feature that's maybe less obvious, that I really recommend people checking out. And the key thing there, since we've been opening up elements of this, is log in first if you want to see everything in there. Some things are available while logged out, but if you want to look across everything, log into the Community Hub first.
Cool. So I love the search of marketplace for community. I don't even think I knew it did that. Andy, did you have a hand in that by any chance?
That was not me, that one, actually. That was Sophia on the listings team.
All right.
Well, yeah. Well, and the cool thing about that, Nick, that I'll call out is we're using Uncork to facilitate that, right? So our Community Hub, we use a vendor solution as kind of the core engine for some of those things. Maybe one day we'll rebuild the whole thing on Uncork. We probably could, right? But we're using that solution to kind of stand this up. But we're not limited by the legacy of this vendor that we selected or what comes out of the box with the vendor. They have an API, and so then we're able to add things like new ways to earn points or collect things, or integrations with the Academy so that when you're certified, it shows on your community profile. Or all this federated search is really using their API to say, hey, what needs to come up in searches? And we use an Uncork app and this API to facilitate keeping those search results up to date and relevant. And that was a need that we had, and we solved it using Uncork, and it was a pretty fast solution. And it's one that we use, every week or every day to keep those things up to date.
Cool. Yeah, and it just speaks to the way, it's a great example of how people are using Uncork and codeless architecture across the board. I mean, they're not necessarily having to build everything and migrate everything into an Uncork built application, a codeless application, but because of the integrations we have and the complexity of everybody's ecosystem out there, the ability to plug it in. So I love that that's actually how you went about doing this, and I'm sure you'll find more and more interesting ways to bring that concept to life. So super cool stuff.
If anyone has questions about this, they can always reach out to me if they're on the Community Hub. You can see there's an email address for community@Uncork. I'd love for you to log in if you have access, send me a message too, or connect with any of these people. But I think that really the other great way to demonstrate our community, Nick, is to switch over to our standard success hour, involve some of our other experts that we have here for us. So that's the other part of this. We've been focusing on the Community Hub as a place, right? Remember, the other part of our community is programs to bring us together live. Events like this, live streams, access to experts, being able to collaborate and talk about things. So Success Hour is one of the ways that we do that each month. We take questions and topics that are really kind of trending or resonating on our community, and then we recruit some experts to demo them live. The other thing we do for that success hour typically is some live Q&A with our technical success managers like Nick Nadolski, who's here with us, as well as our group of SMEs. We have, I think, around 30 SMEs all around the world, many of whom join each month to help answer whatever questions attendees bring. But we have 3 popular questions and topics from the community that our experts have prepared for you here today. And each are kind of short form demos to kind of answer that. And then we embed these video clips into the community. So when someone's looking at that question later on, they're going to be able to see, you know, Nick doing a demo. So Nick Nadolski, you want to hop in and talk to us about dynamic grids? You're up first because dynamic grid, since we released it, has been one of the things we're getting the most questions about. It's really cool to see creators, you know, jumping in, plugging it into their applications, getting to know that. Naturally, questions about, all right, how do you do this specific thing pop up? So there's one that's been getting a lot of views and a lot of tractions that you're going to demo for us.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Hi, everyone, again. If you didn't learn around for introductions, I'm a technical success manager here at Uncork, and I work with a large variety of our partners, mostly around pursuing new ideas, applications, and as we continue to expand our platform and offer more components, helping our partners get up and running with them. One of that is the new grid system, which has had a lot of interest from day one and is constantly evolving. Our first new part of the grid system is the dynamic grid. And one of the first questions that has come up quite a bit is, how do I create a pop-up modal from a dynamic grid? So if we previously had a grid, we would create a button, we could have different content, but how do I take the information that's within our new dynamic grid that's super easy to configure, and how do I quickly just create a button so I can have more information and then even have additional context within that grid? So I hope everyone can share my screen. I've made just a quick little demo. This is just a simple module application. And first and foremost, I just want to have a little bit of data for our grid, just to populate things. So I have a data reference table here, simple IDs, and a variety of animals that I've chosen. Within our module, we want to be able to load that data from that data reference table. So I've created a quick plugin to load that data. Here you can see I'm just getting the rows from that particular table and bringing it into my module. Pretty simple. Again, you could pull this in from another API or another data source. It could be a lot more complicated, but for demo purposes, I'll keep it simple. Here, I've actually created a data workflow to load that data into what will be my dynamic grid. So I have an input here, just component, plugin load data. So I'm utilizing the plugin I had just created. And then my output will be putting it into my dynamic grid within my module. So I'm going to save that here. And I've created a button to actually load that data. Again, you could have another way to trigger loading the data within the table based on a variety of conditions. But here I just created a simple button. I'm looking to load data and I'm triggering my plugin load data. So pretty simple. Again, you can make this as complicated or complex as you'd like. It's part of the benefit of the dynamic grid. It's super performant. Here I have created a dynamic grid. I haven't really made it very crazy, but I've added in some header labels, what that property is from my table, as well as added a button and just add the property ID of view. And that's pretty simple. The thing is that button by default doesn't quite do anything other than trigger a button. And so here, what I've done is I've created a rule, right? And I have some manual rule. I put in the property from my dynamic grid. There's new syntax for the dynamic grid. It's actually pretty straightforward, and our product team works pretty hard to keep things consistent. All of this is available within our documentation, within community, within our docs portal, and there is a huge amount of people within the community asking all sorts of questions. So if you're looking to learn a little bit more about that syntax, we do have that all documented for you as well. So here, just give it an ALS A. And what I've done is I've created a property for a panel, and I'll show you how I created my panel. And all I'm going to do is trigger my panel. I have some very simple input values, right, for my micro decisions, right? So I'm sticking the dynamic grid with the animal in it. I'm triggering my panel, and I'm going to say open. So again, same syntax that we've used in other Uncork components. So it should be pretty straightforward, especially if you're moving from one of the more legacy grid systems. And then here, I've made it really simple, is I've created a panel, and the most important part in this demo is clicking display as a modal. And here I've also enabled to allow clicking outside the modal to dismiss it. You could have another button trigger close in the modal, especially if you had, say, conditions that you wanted, or if there were required fields that you wanted filled out in the modal before closing it. And so here, I'll show you what I've done. We can preview this. In fact, I already have it open. So here I have my dynamic grid. You'll notice that there's nothing in my dynamic grid because I haven't pulled in that data. So here I'm going to click my button, which is going to trigger that plugin to bring in the data from the data reference table. I have a variety of animals listed for my table. I have my view buttons. And in this case, if I want, I can just click view. And in this case, I picked a panda. It opens a quick modal. You could have, again, additional context. You could even have another dynamic grid with other data objects that you want in it, or additional questionnaires. So it's really flexible. But for just demo purposes, I picked a panda. So it's really very, very flexible. And because the dynamic grid is so customizable, again, this modal could be, in a different position, again, contain different data, or it could just be, a simple confirmation. Like please verify, this is you've confirmed that this is a submission you want, and then that button could even be disabled or change text. So dynamic grid is super popular. Please provide your feedback within the community, and it's constantly evolving. So stay tuned.
Unplanned panda, by the way.
Oh,
I was about to ask if that was
planned. Any questions on that? Again, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context, but I do highly recommend, if you are starting to explore the dynamic grid, I'm just reading through the documentation. Our enablement team has gone far and beyond to hopefully provide you all the information you need to get up and running. And then you can always hang out with someone like me. Again, I like conduct office hours for lots of our partners. I encourage everyone to reach out to the community first, but know that we're here for you as you continue to explore some of our newer features within the platform.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And I want to call out, I'm looking at the question that inspired this demo here today. And this was something that was actually answered pretty quickly by two non-staff creators. We had other creators for partners or customers who answered this really quickly. So we talked earlier about how cool it is to see collective expertise. The median response time for questions asked on the community is under 2 hours. So people are actively, collaborating and sharing and answering each other's questions as they work throughout their day on Uncork. And also kind of the median time to when the answer is replied is not much longer than that. So typically you're getting a reply pretty fast. And then also, one of those first few replies, there's a good chance that that's the answer that's going to help you.
And I'll be completely honest. I actually used that community post and the POC that was created in the trading environment. Quickly copied the POC, made a couple of changes, and added a panda. So as we mentioned earlier, even us here at Uncork rely on the community, and I can't tell you how nice it is. Sometimes the community creates awesome POCs. It's always a great starting point. You can always have follow-ups. But yeah, there's just so much great content. So
so shout out to Manzi and Matarika, who are the people who helped solve this question on the community, and as Nick said, gave them a head start on putting together this demo.
Yep, absolutely. Great. Well, I think that's it. And then always happy to answer any follow-up questions, either on or offline.
Great. Thanks, Nick. So next up, we have Andy. Another popular topic we see a lot. We see a lot of questions around checkboxes. On our Success Hour last month, I believe it was, we had another demo on checkboxes. So the cool thing is you're getting very specific use cases, and I want to do this, but not that, which I think is related to your demo here, Andy. So Andy's up next to talk about how to only allow a single check with the checkbox component.
Yep. Thanks, Danny. So here's the question. It was originally by Bill, and like you said, they wanted to leverage the checkbox component because of a certain setting, a column layout, but they only wanted to have one checkbox selected at a time. Now, you might think, oh, this is not possible if I don't see it in the settings modal, but that's where the power of the community comes in. Most things are possible, and someone might have the answer. So because this was posted, now everybody has the answer to this and an example. So I'm going to walk you through that. What it looks like by default is you have just simple checkboxes, but by default, you can only, or you can select multiple at one time. If we were to look at this checkboxes component, we don't have a setting. There's a bunch in here, but we don't have a setting to only allow one to be selected at a time. So what we're able to do is use some other logic components to make sure that only one of those is selected. So what I've done here is set up an initializer, which essentially watches that checkbox component to see if there's any changes. And then if it senses a change, it will trigger a data workflow, which is another one of our logic components. So let's see what actually happens when a change is detected by going into that data workflow. And we can see we have our input, which is my checkboxes, which is that visual component we saw. And first what we do is we check the size of the checkboxes component. And if the size of it is greater than 1, we go down one path. But if it's 1, then we output that to a hidden component called previous selection. So previous selection would be essentially the first selection if nothing had been selected before, or if something had been selected before, it would be the one right before that second selection. So if nothing had been selected, we don't want to go down this path. If something had been, then we do. So for the first click, we save it to this hidden component, previous selection. The second click, we go down this other logic component called merge. So let's take a look at merge now. Right above that is the hidden component. What merge does is it takes the input of the checkboxes component, which is an array of the selections, and then it takes the previous selection and merges those two together. And it will only take, we have a call to array node, which converts it back to what the my checkboxes component expects. But this merge here makes it so that it will remove the element which was previously selected. So if we want to see this in action, we could go here. I have nothing selected. If I check 1, what's happening in the background is it's storing that selection to that hidden component. Now, if I select the selection 2, it's going and doing that merge with that previous selection and removing the first selection, which then only leaves selection 2 selected. And you can continue on, and that's how we leave only one selected at a time when the component out of the box doesn't allow that. So if you didn't ask, you wouldn't know. And this was just a fun, simple one to show that while you think it might not be possible, likely it is. You just got to ask.
Got it. That's look. I all right. So you said somebody said you couldn't do it, right? And then yep. And the answer is, of course you can. It's Uncork. It's called architecture. That's super cool. I do have a question though.
Yes.
Why not a radio button here?
That wasn't the question. I wasn't my use case.
But I guess it's a question for the person who asked that person to make checkboxes single select, but that would be my response to the thread. Use a radio.
That's a good question. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we should go back and ask Bill.
It drives me nuts that someone would want to do a single select checkbox group, but hey,
yeah,
if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it's super cool that you can do anything on Uncork. I would say for the person who originally answered this, radio buttons are built to only have one selected. Checkboxes are built to have multiple selected. So I would certainly encourage folks to use the default. Like a browser will treat a radio as an individual. I'd encourage you to use the appropriate components for your use case. If you need to style it like a checkbox, all right, go ahead and style a radio like a checkbox. But either way, I love that we have such creative solutions to all the types of different problems and questions that are coming in. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, that's a good example of, if you just investigate on your own, you might hit a wall, right? And say like, well, Uncork can't do it. So, kind of a big part of community is like, If you want to go somewhere fast, maybe go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together. And hopefully our community helps you to both go faster because of what I mentioned of people are actively answering and kind of working alongside you, but it allows you to kind of figure out solutions and to go further and to build better applications thanks to the expertise of the collective whole, which is really great. Thank you for that, Andy. That leaves Eric coming back to talk about. We kind of aggregated a number of things that we're seeing of questions around triggering automated workflows. This is another thing we do on Success Hours. It's not always answering a specific question. It's taking lessons learned, best practices, and tips and tricks, and kind of just serving them up here of, hey, if you're looking to do something like this, here's how you do it. So Eric, you're up to talk about automated workflows.
Yeah, thanks. As someone who does a lot of back end work, not so much front end work, automated workflows are kind of my bread and butter. It's how I get things done in Uncork. Here you can see just a little front end module I built here that looks like this, right? Just 2 buttons, 2 plugins. Sorry if you hear a screaming child. I do have a 2-year-old. But and here I have our example workflows, right? In workflows in the automated lane, there's 2 main ways that you can trigger a workflow. One is a timer start node. And those, up until very recently, have had a relative execution and an exact. And relative, I like to call it as a cyclic, right? So like every 3 minutes, do something, every however many hours, days, weeks, months, years, and then it'll keep repeating it once it's started. And then the exact is like a scheduled time. So you can say like every week at this time in UTC, do this thing. And previously, if you wanted to say run a workflow like Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., you would use these 2 different types of timer start nodes in conjunction with each other. But now we have cron, and you don't have to do that anymore. I'm not going to pretend to be a cron expert, but you can do all those things in cron. Crazy things, right? Anyone who knows cron knows that you can do pretty much anything. You can define any sort of scheduled time or group of time however you want in cron. And sure enough, there's some documentation here, so that's great. So anyway, that's one way to start a workflow, and the other way is with a signal start. And a signal start can basically trigger off of 2 things: a promotion or a save. And a promotion will trigger off of a specific app or all applications, right? Any application being promoted will trigger this, or you can do a specific module save or a any module being saved. And this is my old name for my module. Sorry, it's Eric's dumb module. I've since renamed it, but I didn't refresh this, so that's why it says Eric's dumb module. And the key thing about these is that neither of these are active right now. You can see that the icon is grayed out, or it's less saturated, the coloring, because they won't activate until they're running, right? So if I save Eric's dumb module right now, it's not going to trigger this because it's not running. And same thing with this relative. This is not going to run every 3 minutes because it's not started. So, but like, how can I start those, right? That's often a question. That's what we're talking about. I could click run here, but that's not very automated at all. That's just me coming in here and clicking a button. So how do we do it? If we're looking at the timer start node, I can click here, and we can see that right in the plugin for Uncork service type, we have run a timer start node. And I have this test run selected because if we look here in the workflow, I can actually click test run, and that actually will just run this once for me, even though it's set up to run every 3 minutes. And the big difference here is, like, you would think, oh, I can click run and then just click stop after it runs once. But clicking run will actually wait the 3 minutes that I have set in there before running. So if I go here and click trigger the timer start node, I'll click submit, and this is the response you get from that plugin, right? It says that it started, test run successfully started for the timer start node TS relative. And then if I go to my email, because I have a message set up, here's my email that just came in, and that's the message that's set up. So this is from relative timer start node. So that is like this super easy way to trigger the timer start node by doing the start node once test run. And all you have to do here is you can pick your actual workflow, and then you put in the timer path, which in this case is TS relative. And you can see here it's passing in run once. And you take the path directly from whatever you called it here, right? And then similarly, we have the signal start node, which I have looking at this module. I renamed it to Eric start module. So this was called Eric's dumb module. So if I save this module now, nothing's going to happen because that signal start node is not started, right? So no emails coming in. But if I come here and click this, so you can now see that the signal start node is started and save start is now running. So now if I go back to my module and click save and wait a moment or two for email to go out and come in, maybe if I click this button, it'll happen faster, right? This is like watching water boil. An email should pop in. So we can come back to that in a second. And if we refresh this workflow, we can see that the signal start node will be started here. So now you can see it's more saturated, the color, and maybe it's because I'm filtering this too much. Live demos, everybody. But you can see that, excuse me, that it is started. And if we look in here, we can see that this signal start is not actually an option in here. So what I did was I picked the start node. I can just start typing here. So I picked the start a timer start node. And then I came in here and changed this to signal start. And then filled in the workflow path by choosing the workflow, and then typed in the timer start node path. And so I'm sure soon this will be addressed, so they'll have signal start node appear. So you can just easy peasy click on it from the drop down. But for now, you would have to just replace that with a signal start to tell it what kind of start node you want it to start up. Let's see if there's our email. There we go. Just email being a little slow. So you can see that Twitch demo save message, just a message from us from saving a module. So yeah, so those are the two ways that you would start that up in an somewhat automated way, right? From someone, it could be clicking a button, it could be reaching a certain point in the user-facing workflow, it could be some crazy APIs you got running, or maybe even some sort of signal coming in from an external request. So, but that's the basics there.
Awesome. I love all of those, especially the cron, all the signal start nodes. The power of workflow is just growing and growing and growing all the time. And if I could ask the crowd one thing, get on that ideas section of community and go ask for more possible events of the signal start node. I promise you I will upvote them all for you. A little, backhanded way of me getting some feedback. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Andy. That was all awesome. And I just said Andy's name, and Danny, I think I remembered earlier you just congratulated Andy on being an SME or a SME, depending on how cool I want to sound trying to say it. What is that? What did Andy do, and what does that mean now?
Yeah, so the short version is, and so Andy and then one of our partner creators recently earned it too, and I think we probably will welcome a couple more when I do my month-end calculations. But it's a couple different things to earn subject matter expert status on the community. One is you contribute 200 or more points for 3 consecutive months. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of contributions. And again, remember, you earn points by replying. You get a lot more points if your reply is marked as the answer, but other ways to contribute as well. Upvoting, sharing your ideas, right? So if you listen to what Nick said, you go share that idea and you get a bunch of upvotes, that's going to help you with points there as well. So we want you to be active, to work out loud, to help each other out, and to tell us what you need to be successful. So that's one part of it. And then also you need to have answered 20 questions all time. So that really is kind of like the proof point that you're an expert. If you're the one who have provided 20 answers, then you know what you're talking about. And Andy knows what he's talking about. So he just recently crossed those 2 thresholds. And we talked earlier about how we're seeing so many more of our external creators, customers and partners alike, earning, and that's a really cool thing. Our most active people on the community are our customers and partners, and they're earning SME status in addition to the certifications, which is really cool. But Andy, yeah, is one of our latest staff SME who earned that level. And so, Andy, I thought a good way to wrap up and talking about why, we've talked a lot about the community as a resource for learning and helping you, but why give back? Why participate? Why did you set out to be an SME?
Thanks, Andy. Yeah. Well, as Nick said, in the beginning, there really was just the internal employees that were building on Uncork. I wasn't around at that point in time, but I joined around a year ago, and community was one of the big resources that I used to learn and get up to speed. So really, it wasn't about the swag or the points or anything like that, but it was about giving back and trying to answer questions and help people like I was helped originally when I was learning and trying to ramp on the Uncork platform.
Yeah, and there's a lot that can be learned. Like, I think you answered that question you demoed, right? And it was something you're like, oh, I think we can do this, but then you have to go to work and build a POC to kind of like show it. So it allows you to sharpen your skills as you help other people out. And along the theme of what Andy was just saying, at Uncork Create, our big conference last fall, we did an SME panel where we talked about why did they give back, what benefits have they gotten from being an SME. So you can find that on the community hub, and you can see and hear from a number of people talking about how they learn through seeing other people's use cases and answering questions. So it's a good tool to accelerate your learning and build expertise, and also you're helping out your fellow creators. So thank you to all of our speakers. Reminder for everybody, we do this every month. We're thinking about bringing them to Twitch. So if you would like us to bring them to Twitch, add a comment or, but with these success hours, we take these demos to really help you out. And so keep up to date on everything on the community hub. Nick, anything else, questions that you have for us or things you want to talk about with community?
Look, I think Andy's story right there of using the community to get where he is now at the company, building such awesome stuff, our marketplace and everything else, being able to answer these questions, just goes to show to all the folks who maybe haven't gotten into it yet, what you can get out of it. Real life example. Thanks to Nick and Eric also for coming on and answering the questions, and Danny helping me MC this whole thing with your theater background. Don't take my job, please. I need this. But really, thank you all for coming on and allowing us to focus on the community, and look forward to folks coming on again. I'm sure we'll have many of you back. You all have been such wonderful guests, and again for Eric and Andy a couple times now for us. I think we're probably going to have next week no Twitches next week, but after that we're going to be twitching like all week long. MongoDB World is going on in New York. Unqork has a really big presence there, as we have such a great partnership with that organization. So if you're going to MongoDB World, look forward to seeing you there. If you're not, tune into this Twitch channel for some real live streaming on site. So again, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And I guess as they say here, arrivederci.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone.